Good morning, all you monsters, witches, grotesque figures, and just aging people.
Very so wrong. Speak for yourself.
Welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies and beliefs, people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. I am Margaret Rice Moyer, your worship host this morning, happy to be welcoming you to the service today with Elenita Muniz, who is helping with the service. Our services are recorded and available on your YouTube channel midweek. We do ask that all over the age of 4 mask while in our buildings. Please silence your cell phones. We ask that all wear their name tags or fill out the sticker name tags in an effort to be more welcoming. We also welcome the noises, movements, and mirth that our little ones bring to our meeting house. Our services are 60 to 75 minutes long, so if you need to leave before then, you are welcome to use the doors at the rear of the sanctuary. For those of you who may be first-time visitors this morning, welcome. Are there any visitors who would like to introduce themselves? We have a mic somewhere.
I can talk loud. Okay. I'm Nancy Gallard. Hi, I'm Nancy Goward. Just up the road in Brewster. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Roy Cundiff. I just moved to Brewster. I was active in the Wellesley Church for 20 years and the Lincoln Church for 12. So I'm a militant Unitarian.
Well practiced.
Welcome. Welcome this morning, on this morning which we make sacred by our presence together. And a big welcome to people who are streaming. We're glad you're here. In community news announcements, let your voices be heard. The Stewardship Committee is offering up small group listening circles on November 6th, next week, after Sunday service. We ask that you gather after a brief coffee break for a quick, approximately 15 to 20-minute listening session where 2 questions will be asked. Your response to these questions will help guide us in better serving you through future pledge campaigns. We look forward to hearing from you. And next Sunday, you are invited to join Reverend Jessica and Worship Associate Wilderness Sarchild as they lead a service on reflecting on the pandemic and our monthly theme of change. All are welcome as well at 10 a.m. Following the I have one other announcement. There's a change in the order of service. The flowers this morning have been gifted by Donna Mercaldi. Thank you, Donna. Following the service today, everyone is invited outside for Halloween festivities and coffee hour out on the plaza. Welcome to our service today. It is so good to be together.
Good morning. I have next to no voice, so Ricky and I will try to make it clear for everyone. If you cannot hear me, please wave, and Ricky will adjust the volume. The theme for the month of October is courage. That word always brings to my mind those lovely lines in the prologue to the Canterbury Tales. So pricketh him natuur in her courages, than longen folk to go on pilgrimages. Or in modern English, so nature moves them in their hearts that people want to make a pilgrimage. But I prefer the Middle English for the poetry and the rhythm. Our word courage comes, of course, from the Old French, courage, at least I thought that, meaning heart. So I checked in one of my favorite reference books, the Oxford English Dictionary. And sure enough, here it is. The first definition. The heart as the seat of feeling, thought, etc. Spirit, mind, disposition, and nature. This is their definition of courage. And then it says, obsolete. And then it cites Geoffrey Chaucer. So pricketh him natuur in her courages, than longen folk to go on pilgrimages. I like the idea of courage as being the center of our feeling, our spirit, disposition, and our nature. And then Chaucer uses nature in a very particular way as well. So let's check that one out. It's not the first definition, it's the 9th definition. Oh, I'll just read it from my notes. The inherent dominating power or impulse by which action of character is determined, directed, or controlled. I love that phrase, action of character. Unitarians are the deeds, not creeds people, right? Nature is the inherent dominating power or impulse by which action of character is determined, directed, or controlled. And our man Geoffrey Chaucer is cited again. So pricketh him natuur in her courages, than longen folk to go on pilgrimages. We know that Jessica undertook a pilgrimage earlier this year, and I'm aware of several people in this congregation who have also walked El Camino de Santiago. My friend and mentor, Alicia Longriver, walked from Cape Cod to the Hopi Nation in Arizona some years ago. What sets us on such paths? How does nature move us in our courages to make that commitment, to step out on that long and winding road? Perhaps for Jessica, the motivation was sorrow. For Alicia, it was love of the planet Earth and a desire for peace. For others, maybe it's curiosity or a seeking or simply a physical challenge. Each of us on the path is guided by our own courage and nature. So it's not a great stretch for us to see the equivalency in courage and nature in this context, is it? We speak of someone as having the heart of a lion to indicate they have great courage. We speak of our better nature when we want to talk about our core values. Used in this way, nature and courage, nature and courage, are two sides of the same coin. I have heard people say, in fact, I think I've said it myself, that you can believe anything and be a UU. But we know that isn't true. All of us have covenanted to support the same 8 principles. I could use those principles, perhaps, to define the heart and courage of Unitarian Universalism, understanding that each individual brings to this covenant our own courage and nature. For some, maybe the interdependent web of all existence is their primary driver. For others, it might be the free and responsible search for truth. And this essential or core belief guides us, guides all our deeds, all the actions of our character as UUs. The same idea applies to each congregation in the UUA, which makes me wonder, what is the courage, the nature of First Parish Brewster? If there are 100 people here, I might get 100 answers, but I hope not. My former headmaster used to say, in a great school, if you ask people what is best and what is worst about the institution, the worst things will be particular to the individual, while the best things will all be variations on a single theme. That's in a great school. So what is the single theme of First Parish Brewster? How does nature prick us in our courages? What long and winding road are we willing, even eager, to step out on? Who the heck are we? Once, I might have thought I knew. Now I flounder about trying to answer that question for others and for myself. And having an answer might be especially important as we consider whether or not to do a new capital campaign, remembering that half the funds for this restoration came from outside our church. So knowing what the nature and courage of First Parish are might be very useful for others, but also for ourselves. As we light our chalice this morning, let us consider deeply what courage means, not just for us as individuals, but also for our First Parish community. Blessed be.
Will you rise, please, and join us in singing hymn 21. That's not the one I thought of. Oh, okay. For the beauty of the earth. That's not the microphone.
Source of
standing for the unison affirmation. We believe in love. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. We believe in truth. The quest for truth is its sacrament. We believe in helping others. And service is our prayer. We believe in the sacredness of life, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine.
Good morning. So at this time, I'd like to invite all the kids and youth who are going to collect for UNICEF to make sure you have a box. There are some back there, and if you don't have one, Augie, I have one right up here for you, or anyone else. Would you like to take one of these? That's a lot of hands you need. You hold that. I bet Emmett will help you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, and then come on up here with your boxes. We talked a couple of weeks ago about what it means to collect for UNICEF, and I laughed because I remember trick-or-treating for UNICEF, and I told them that the boxes used to look different. And what I also remember was having to ponder, do I really have to do either or? Can I trick-or-treat for UNICEF and still get candy? It was a dilemma when I was a child. How many of you remember trick-or-treating for UNICEF? Isn't that amazing how long this has been going on? I was going to look it up, but I didn't. And we talked about UNICEF stands for the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, which I also learned when I was a child. This morning, we are all going to come out and collect what I hope is the change that you have brought, or very small bills. And we're going to try to scatter through and take them from you. Because after all, that's what you do with the Children's Emergency Fund. So, do you all have boxes? Lucy's going to play some music. Anyone need a box? Okay. And I want you to kind of spread out. So maybe Augie and this group over here can go down that aisle, and somebody can go up in the balcony, and some of you can go down that aisle. Maybe you guys, maybe Evan and Zane, you go this way. And if you're in the pews, maybe pass the boxes down so they're not climbing over you. All right? Let's have a parade of costumes because children need emergency funds. Let's do it. Okay, everybody up. Let's go. Go see who wants to put coins in your box. Excellent. Raise your hand, please, if you want them to come to you. Perfect. Then they know where to go. Little costumed people, you can come back forward when your side is, all those hands are down. Come on up. Hey, Robot, PJ Robot.
Look like more. I don't know.
Did somebody get the balcony? Oh, where'd Danny go? Danny, can you go up to the balcony? Do you know how to get there? And Naomi. Looks like we're mostly there. Come on back up, kids. Oh, there's someone in the balcony. Awesome. Thank you, Zane. Thank you. All right, come on back. We have more things to do. Stand right here when you're done. Bring your boxes. Hang on to your boxes. Right there. Actually, put the boxes on the table. I'm sorry. That's what I meant to tell you. And then sit down, face. Perfect. Sit down facing us. Okay? Great. Come on back. We'll wait for those in the balcony. Honest, we will. And if you could put your boxes on the table and then sit facing this way. So sit down here, if you would. Thank you. Great job. Come on, George Harrison. We need you up here. Right down here. Or, no, Augie, over here. On this table. Perfect. Thank you. Come on, guys. Put your boxes on the table and then sit down because we have a story to tell. Sit down anywhere you like. Yes. And can you look up this direction? Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well done. Bravo. Did you get full boxes? Yes, thank you all. Thank you all. So this morning, we're going to tell a story together, these wonderful costumed characters and some of us up here. The story is based on the book Room on the Broom, which is one of my very favorite Halloween stories, written by Julia Donaldson. And I will tell you out front that my apologies go to Julia because I have adapted this for the players in the room. And some of this is going to be a little ad-lib because I don't always know exactly who the players in the room will be. So we'll see how we do. This is a story about a witch. And the witch, who's going to stand over here, right about here, I think, has a broom, but you can't see it. It's an imaginary broom. And when she climbs on the broom and rides the broom, you can only imagine what's going to happen next. Okay, now, you ready? You all know what an imaginary broom looks like, right? You've seen it right up here. Okay. So, Room on the Broom. The witch had a mummy. Come on up, mummy. Can you get on the broom? Climb on. Step over. There you go. Maybe come forward just a little bit. The witch had a mummy and a hat that was black and long ginger hair in a braid down her back. Oh, how the mummy groaned and how the witch grinned as they sat on their broomstick and flew through the wind. Oh, but how the witch wailed and how the mummy cried when the wind blew so wildly it blew off the hat. Oh. Down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the hat, but no hat could be found. Then out of the bushes, on lumbering feet, there stepped George Harrison. Come on up, George. Come on up, George. Can you come up and get the hat? Can you get the hat? Come on up. Sorry, hang on to that, Claudia. You pick up the hat and take it over to the witch. You get it? Right there? Here, Augie. Take the hat to the witch. Hand it over to her, and then get on the broom. With the hat in his teeth. He dropped it politely, then eagerly said, as the witch pulled the hat firmly down on her head, I am George Harrison, keen as can be. Is there room on the broom for someone like me? Oh, yes, cried the witch, and George climbed right on. Do you want to ride on the broom? Go stand with the mummy. The witch tapped her broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the fields and forests they flew. The witch laughed out loud and held on to her hat, but away blew the bow from her braid. The bow flew off just like that. Down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the bow, but no bow could be found. Then, out from a tree, with a crash like a band, there stepped a robot. Oh, a robot came right up. Come right on up with a bow in his hand. I am a robot, as clever as can be. Is there room on the broom for a robot like me? What do you think? Oh, yes, cried the witch, and the robot clambered on. Climb on that broom. The witch tapped her broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the reeds and the rivers they flew. The robot shrieked with glee. Ha, 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 ha. And the stormy wind blew. They shot through the sky to the back of beyond. The witch clutched her bow, but let go of her wand. Oh, no, down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the wand, but no wand could be found. Then all of a sudden, from out of a pond, rose Drift, the warrior, and Spider-Man with a dripping wet wand. Can you get the wand? We are Drift and Spider-Man, as mighty as can be. Is there room on the broom for a warrior and a superhero like me? Yes, get on the broom! Yes, said the witch, so Drift and Spider-Man climbed on. The witch tapped her broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. And then suddenly in the distance, they saw a small girl. She had a bat. A bat flew out of the forest, and they said, just like that, come on up on the broom. There's room. There's always room on the broom. There you go. Maybe you'll sit in front of the witch. Over the moors and the mountains they flew. Drift shouted for joy, and the broom snapped in two. And down fell the mummy, Spider-Man, the bat, and Drift. Down fell George Harrison and the robot, and they all tumbled into a ditch. The witch's half broomstick kept flying, and she flew into a cloud. But everyone else is down in the ditch, and they're getting all boggy. And the witch flew into a crowd, and the witch heard a roar that was scary and loud. Whoa. I am a dragon, as mean as can be, and witch with French fries tastes delicious to me. Oh no, cried the witch, flying higher and higher. The dragon flew after her, breathing out fire. Help, cried the witch, flying down to the ground. She looked all around, but no help could be found. The dragon drew near with a glint in her eyes and said, just this once, I'll have witch without fries. But just as she planned to begin on a feast, from out of the ditch rose a horrible beast, because all of those people on the broom made a scary monster. They all stood up, and they made themselves into a scary-looking thing. They scared that dragon. It had 5 frightful heads. It had wings like a bird, and its terrible voice when it started to speak was a yowl and a croak and a shriek. It dripped and it squelched as it strode from the ditch, and it said to the dragon, buzz off. That's my witch. We're not done. The dragon drew back and she started to shake. I'm sorry, she spluttered. I made a mistake. It's nice to have met you, but now I must fly. And she spread out her wings and went off through the sky. Then out stepped George Harrison, and down hopped Drift, and down climbed the robot and Spider-Man and the bat, and phew, said the mummy. And, oh, thank you, said the witch. Without you, I'd be in that dragon's inside. Then the witch filled up her cauldron and said with a grin, find something, everyone. Throw something in. What can you find to throw into that witch's pot right there? So George Harrison found a lily and a guitar, and Drift and Spider-Man found a cone, and the robot found a twig, and the bat found a bone, and the mummy found a bone too. They all threw them in. Throw your things into the cauldron, pretend. There you go. They threw them in, and the witch stirred them well. And while she was stirring, she muttered a spell, iggity, ziggity, ziggity, zoom. And what rose out was a truly magnificent new broom. With seats for the witch, climb on, witch, for George Harrison, get on that new broom, George. And the mummy, a place for the robot, for the bat, for Spider-Man, and even for Drift. They all got on the new broom. Climb on the broom, because we're going on a ride now. Climb on. Get on the broom. Okay. Yes, cried the witch. And they all clambered on. The witch tapped the broomstick, and whoosh, follow the witch. They were gone. Woo, go with the witch. Go. Follow the witch. Follow the witch right out the door. There they were gone.
That was so great.
And now, will you cast your eyes down or close your eyes, settle into your pew, breathe deep, and let the sounds around you and the space fade away while we enter into a time of meditative reflection, followed by a moment of silence. Let us live for the grace beneath all we want. Let us see it in everything and everyone, till we admit to the mystery that when I look deep enough into you, I find me. And when you dare to hear my fear in the recess of your heart, you recognize it as your secret, which you thought no one else knew. Oh, let us embrace that unexpected moment of unity as the atom of God. Let us have the courage to hold each other when we break and worship what unfolds. Oh, nameless spirit that is not done with us, let us love without a net beyond the fear of death until the speck of peace we guard so well becomes the world. Please join singing hymn 123, Spirit of Life. Hymn for the Hurting by Amanda Gorman. Everything hurts, our hearts shadowed and strange, minds made muddied and mute. We carry tragedy, terrifying and true. And yet none of it is new. We knew it as home, as horror, as heritage. Even our children cannot be children, cannot be. Everything hurts. It's a hard time to be alive, and even harder to stay that way. We're burdened to live out these days while at the same time blessed to outlive them. This alarm is how we know we must be altered, that we must differ or die, that we must triumph or try. Thus, while hate cannot be terminated, it can be transformed into a love that lets us live. May we not just grieve, but give. May we not just ache, but act. May our signed right to bear arms never blind our sight from shared harm. May we choose our children over chaos. May another innocent never be lost. Each week, we have the practice of splitting our offertory plate. Half of what is collected goes to the work of First Parish Brewster, and the other half goes to a worthy organization nominated by members of this congregation. Today's split plate is with a baby center. Their mission: to serve without judgment the youngest in our community. A baby center supplements critical basic needs that ensure the good health and safety of babies in need who live on Cape Cod and the islands. These services are provided at no cost to clients and without regard for religious preference or lack thereof. Your offering will benefit this organization and the great work of First Parish. Please make checks out to First Parish Brewster UU with split plate in the memo line. Please write a separate check for pledge payments. You can text to give, and the number is in your order of service. The morning offering will now begin.
Start with one kindness that might lift one's soul. Start with one kindness your heart can't withhold. It might not win you praises, it won't make the news, but you might help a neighbor hear a song in their blues. Start with one kindness, you might change someone's world. Start with one person riddled with fear. Start with one person who just needs your ear. It might not be someone you'd normally notice. They might not share your political focus. Start with one kindness, you might change someone's world. Start with one neighbor with no house to call home. Start with one neighbor we can help build their own. Yes, there are millions whose woes we won't heal, but this family before us has a need that is real. Start with one kindness, you might change someone's world. Start with one family, build a roof over their heads. Start with one family whose needs can be fed. It might not relieve every burden they'll carry, but they'll have their own walls to shelter their sharing. Start with one kindness, you might change someone's world. Sometimes it's random, not part of a plan. Who ends up in front of us needing our hands? But all the gifts with which you and I are bestowed are many of them just as much the luck of some draw. So start with one stranger placed in our path. Start with one stranger, maybe by chance. If our path doesn't lead us by someone in need, perhaps it's a different path we should seek. Start with one kindness, you might change someone's world. Start with one person who looks different than us. Start with one person maybe down on their luck. Give them our healing, give them our time. We all might feel the universe subtly smile. Start with one kindness, you might change someone's world. Start with one kindness, you might change someone's world.
Thank you. Oh, is it you? What? It's not on the order. Okay.
This reading is from the Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray, the UU president. Our UU faith has, at its heart, an ethic of love. It reflects the core question, how are we to live? It calls us to courage to continually grow and learn and adapt in ways that foster love and justice. It is not a weak or sentimental love. It burns like the fire at the center of our chalice. It's fierce in a way that compels us to demand justice in our world, but also fierce in how it calls us to courageous conversations, to radical practices of welcome, compassion, forgiveness, and belonging.
There are many ways to be courageous. Like the lion we all know and love from The Wizard of Oz, I believe most of us want desperately to be brave. Maybe we are. Maybe some of us are. How to know? How to believe we have what it takes? This question haunts me as I often think, what risks am I willing to take for the greater good? I have been proud of my history, proud of my willingness to speak and act publicly for what I consider to be moral imperatives. But to be honest, my fear was always a kind of short-term fear. Going to jail, leading teacher strikes, protesting wars, fighting police brutality, closing the nuclear power plant. They were all acts of communal resistance. I was with other people, and to be honest, I was protected by my privilege. I knew I would never disappear inside a prison cell, never to be heard from again. I knew I had the resources to keep me safe, even in the worst of times. So I consider myself pretty average, having done resistance work that was, if not easy, reasonably safe. Now that I'm older, it seems the options are fewer. I imagine you, dear ones, share some wonderful stories of your own moments of resistance. There are a lot of ways to understand courage. And there is good courage, and sometimes it looks like bravado. Maybe I had a bit of bravado as a young woman. But we are Unitarian Universalists. We have a proud history, and our faith calls us to be prophetic voices, to make justice, to work towards a heaven here on earth. We just haven't succeeded yet. Therefore, we must keep on. It means being intentional in our willingness to do right, to say what is true, to be part of the rising tide which lifts all boats. From the time we were children, we learned about the Holocaust, and we often asked, how could it happen? Many of us would ponder how so many good people were so willing to ignore what was occurring in Europe. I know in my own family it came up frequently, as my uncle had come from Germany to the United States immediately before the war and returned to Europe as an Allied soldier. For most of his life, he was vehemently anti-German. He believed they were different. But were they? These days, it's that question which leads me to ask myself, what does it take to be brave in times such as these? How are some people able to take enormous risks, and even small risks, to make a difference in the world? What makes a person brave in the face of malignant hate and brutality? Early on, I believed, as my uncle did, that Germans were different than other people because they went along with the horror that was the Holocaust. But here is my new thinking, born of the last 30 years or so of political deterioration right here in our country. We are all born with the capacity to make moral choices or immoral ones, but we need to practice. We practice not only with large acts of resistance, but by also showing up in small ways, as Mother Teresa famously said, with great love. It makes a difference. There are many daily opportunities to say yes to achieve our highest human potential. I now believe that everyone, ourselves included, have the capacity to be good Germans or to be lions looking for our courageous voice, our own roar. A roar that moves the dial towards generosity, humanity, and love. Our system, like Germany in the late 1930s, is failing. And I understand in such a different way how totalitarianism happens and how good people let it happen. We are good people. And yet we seem unable to stop the train that is roaring into our political system, bringing chaos and untold danger with it. We each do our best, the most we can do. I trust that because I love this community of good and generous people, and I love this faith. But I feel stuck. I feel like I'm a good German. I write letters. I always vote. I stay informed. These are not times for neutrality. You can't be neutral on a moving train. I try hard to know what is happening and at the same time to stay sane. Not just sane. I daren't say hopeful yet, but I keep dreaming. And that takes its own kind of bravery. I dream that our country will find the courage to break the chains that have rendered us immobile, unable to be our best selves, leaving us treading water with our hopes and visions of creating a better world. We are, many of us, struggling. It is not a personal failure. It is a collective phenomenon and a political failure. You know what they say, if you're not anxious, you're not listening. These are hard times, maybe the hardest since I've been alive. Whoops. It takes courage to wake each morning, to greet the day, to err on the side of forgiveness in one's life, to make choices that will, in some small way, lift all boats, in big ways and in small ways. Sometimes it feels too overwhelming. But to greet each day and find the joy, even as our hymn says, when joy is hard to find, to make healing a part of your legacy, that is courage too, my friends. It's not the only thing we need to do, but it is one thing. We avoid discussion about what is happening in the world. We know, we fear those discussions will lead us into depression or angst or gloom. I am always on that edge. So what is a way forward? Stay with trust. Though history may not fully bear this out, trust that there are enough good human beings who are facing the dangers before us, And I want to trust that we will find the courage to be a resistance. It is the fate of the world that is at stake. In the simple words of this poem, Keep Yourself Alive by Alexandra Vassilia, she says, feed your heart with love, forgiveness, hope, and healing words. There is no other way to keep yourself alive. I cannot think about strength and bravery and action without being reminded of those among you who have lived into your own particular valor. We have no dearth of heroes here. You who have stepped into your authentic gender self at great risk, you who have welcomed the other, whether by recently assisting immigrant victims on Martha's Vineyard or by establishing a life for endangered families through building a bigger table, or by finding hope when life has dealt you a great blow. Living in this world at this time requires us to be resilient and to be brave. It also requires us to mine all the nuggets of glorious redemptive miracles that are still around us and within us. It could be my age. It could be the mess the world is in. What I think takes the most courage these days is to wake up ready to do something, to hear the pitter-patter of rainfall after a long dry spell and be amazed, to feel tears start when the hawk swoops over the treetops or the orange sun falls into the sea at the end of a day, to breathe in the fragrance of the endless sand flats, knowing the tide will return, to look deeply into the eyes of a new or old friend, knowing no words are necessary, that you are fully known. The world is full of moments of grace. We need these moments like we need air to breathe. Without them, our commitment can waver, leading to resignation, denial, and cynicism. And that is the way to the end. Courage has to do with big acts and little ones, those beyond us and those within us. If we are unable to eat at the table of amazement, we will have little stamina to keep us to our saving work. When I want to give up, I think of what is at stake. And I turn often to these words, so relevant, so perfect, by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, into the presence of still water. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. May it be so. Amen. Our closing hymn, I just want to remind people to remain seated for the postlude as well. But our closing hymn will be number 1020, Woyaya. Please remain standing for the benediction and then remain seated for the postlude. In today's sharp sparkle, this winter air, anything can be made, any sentence begun, on the brink, on the brim, on the cusp, praise song for walking forward in light. May you walk with courage forward into that light that we long for. Amen.
I'm a dweller on the threshold, and I'm waiting by the door. And I'm standing in the darkness, I don't wanna wait no more. I have seen without perceiving, I have been another man. Let me pierce through all the glamour, so I know just what I am. I'm a dweller on the threshold, and I'm standing at the shore, and I'm peering into the morning mist till my soul finds its place to soar. Feel the angel of the presence in the mighty crystal fire. Lift me up, consume my darkness, let me travel even higher. I'm a dweller on the threshold as I cross the burning ground. Let me go down to the water so my great illusions drown. I'm a dweller on the threshold, I'm waiting by the door. I'm standing in the darkness, I don't wanna wait no more. I will turn and face the music of the spheres. Lift me up, consume my darkness till the midnight disappears. I will walk out of the darkness, I'll walk into the light. Let us sing a song of ages, and the dawn will relieve the night.